Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Trade the Matrix. This is Morpheus. It is Thursday, gap fill Thursday after the close. This is my ES day trade plan review for May 21st, 2026. A quick reminder, this is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor, so please do your own research. With that out of the way, let's jump right into today's video. I just want to show a little bit about how I came up with today's plan, where my head was at, what I was thinking, what transpired, and what type of price action we got at our levels, and what was actionable and what was not. So, just a heads up, heading into the session, basically we had this downtrend forming since Thursday the 14th, kind of acting as resistance, rallying up, acting as resistance, resistance, resistance. We did find some support down here. This is ES, so this is 73.54. You can see there's some equal lows here, and we did have a little bit of a relief rally forming, so breaking up above this down trend line and forming some higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So to come up with today's plan, the first thing that I looked at was, what is 50% of basically this swing high to the swing low? And this is on an hourly. So basically, looking around 74.47 for some potential resistance into today's session was kind of on my mind. I was thinking that, all-time highs, potentially, we're getting like first of a 3 or 5 wave correction here. Um, so basically, this first wave down here, and this is the second. And I was thinking that usually, this thing will kind of bounce and it'll start to um, turn back down around 50%. And that's usually a good spot to kind of target for resistance. Now, how did we come up with today's plan? So I have 74.47, on my mind. And then I go down into the 15-minute session. And usually, when I come up with my plans, I'm looking at either the previous London, Asian, potentially New York PM session. Sometimes it's the London high, and sometimes it's the London high to the Asian low. Sometimes it's the London high to the AM session from the previous day low. Um, Depending on where we are, I'm kind of looking, I have my eyes kind of peeled for what looks to be like the most liquid areas, and that usually happens to be wherever there's a lot of equal lows. So for today, before the bell here, I noticed, this was kind of the low of the London session here, and then you can see there's some equal lows here from the PM session and then into the Asian session here. And if you look back at the basically off of the bottom here, this thing trades, pretty much off of a double bottom. It basically finds resistance right here around 74.15. So, it gets a bottom, it kind of carves out a little bottom. We get some resistance, equal low here, again, some resistance here, 74.15. So in my mind's eye, I'm drawing a line that goes from this area here, basically all the way over to the equal lows from the session right before I'm going to trade. So this was where I got today's support from. 74.15 was today's support from the plan. And then today's resistance was basically just London session high. And then I take my fib tool and I'm going to basically just snap, high to low from that area. And you can basically see here, we're obviously this is futures trading right now, and now we're trading up higher above today's breakout level. But today's session, today's morning session basically was resistance 74.70, breakout above. We're gonna look to 74.83, and then the pivot was 74.42, so that's 50% of this range here. And then support 74.15.50, and break down below. We're going to target 73.62, and basically I'm just using an extension here below. We're looking at previous lows down here. But so today there was some nice price action kind of early on, and then it became very choppy. I like to trade off of the 5 minute is kind of my preferred time frame, so I'll just bring that up here. But 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, depending how early in the day. If it's real early in the day, I'm looking at a much shorter time frame, 1 to 3 minute. As the 10 a.m. session starts to roll around, I'm starting to zoom out a little bit, 5 minute, and then I will use 10 and 15 as we get further out into the session. But today's action was pretty straightforward, and there was some nice opportunities. Um, off the open, we did find support here. We did dip our toe below there, and then we kind of rallied up above, and we went right to our pivot. So kind of a um, perfect, long right off of support. I tell everyone in the Discord, you want to keep things simple. Go long at support and sell at resistance. That's kind of a pretty easy way to um, stay on the right side of things. So we did get, resistance, and then you could have traded it back down into support here if you wanted to short it. We did have this like trend line here that I was kind of monitoring. Now keep in mind, I'm thinking, potentially this is a nice kind of like corrective wave, and maybe we're going to go um, test some lower levels if we break down below. I got like 7,400 obviously on the SPX, and like 73.90. That range on the SPX is basically key support that I was looking to hold or break down below. I thought we could potentially break down below. Nvidia didn't look great today, so I decided to take a swing at 60 points into tomorrow. So I tried to short 74.42 at the pivot here. It worked out great for a day trade. I did not take profit. I was looking for 60 points um, from 74.42. I know that this over here, if you look here, basically the bearish setup says targets 73.62 to 73.20. Those are the lower targets. But for the trade that I was basically trying to pull off today, it would have just been the extension for 60 points down to, excuse me, 60 points basically down to 73.82. So this was the thesis. So shorted here. My stop was at 74.72, and we did, in fact, take that out. So I got stopped out for about minus $1,312. It happens. Can't always be right. Unfortunately, that's not the way that the market rolls. So I did have a chance to take profit on a day trade, but I had a different thesis, so I let it play out, and I got it wrong, and that's okay. Basically targeting 60 points, so my stop was 30 points. above, and this this 1 p.m. Parabolic move pretty much took me out. Also, if you look at the plan, it could have been a decent short. It was a decent short. If you had shorted 74.70 back to the pivot here, you would have had a decent stop in place. Let's say you came up and traded up into 74.70. If you're targeting, 28 points or whatever, you can, set, 14, 15 points above your whatever your entry is, and that would have played out quite nicely. But we did basically trade back down to the pivot, and this previous, basically this previous resistance from the AM session ends up becoming support, and then you could have traded back into resistance, and you can see here basically, right now futures is trading above resistance, and it's going basically to our targets. We did basically go to our target above 74.70, 12 points to 74, 74.83 was our target, and this thing actually traded to 74.86. So had you just, basically just taken the breakout above resistance, that would have worked out lovely. Um, so this is the way that, I kind of construct my plans. I want to basically target, key levels of support and resistance and in different time frames, and understand that we can trade from support into our pivot, which is acting as resistance. We can basically trade from our pivot back down to support, and above our pivot into resistance, and then back down to our pivot from resistance. Basically the levels that I kind of can figure out generally, there's a kind of a really kind of strict set of rules that you can target. So it gives you a really good spot to, I'm going to go along here. My stop will be here. Here's my target, and I'm pretty much trying to develop plans where you're able to take, like, let's say 15 points, 20 points, and your stop is 10 points, or you're taking 30 points and your stop is 15 points. That's how I basically come up with all my plans. I find the most liquid areas. Ideally, you know, um, 30 points is a decent range. 30, 40 points. Obviously, a little bit of a bigger range here today, and the morning session was super choppy, but we were range bound between support and our pivot today for most of the day, and it was you know scalping okay, not really great for a day trade. If you were holding longs here, you did really well when this move went kind of parabolic here at 1 a.m. I was on the wrong side of that. That's okay. It's going to happen. It's not the first time, won't be the last. But anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. Drop a comment, drop a like, a share. Appreciate you stopping by. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one.